Hey Internet, it's Kat. Welcome back to my lair. It is a gray day today. We got a ton of rain last night and now it's just super dark. So I'm sitting really close to the window to get any amount of light. And so you might hear some cars going by today. You'll just have to deal with it. Almost the end of the year, and naturally a time when we reflect on everything we've done throughout the last 12 months, the friends we've made, the connections that we've fostered, and all of the results of our hard work. In the age of social media that we are in now, it is not unusual to see graphs of your achievements and accomplishments shared everywhere. This can be awesome. I think it's great to share your achievements. I think it's great to work towards your goal. But I want to talk about numbers and how numbers seem to define everything we do these days, and how that can have a deep effect on the art that's created when people are thinking of who is going to be liking it. So my musical peer, Dan Magnan, had shared a tweet. The original tweet had talked about how after an album, you put your heart and soul into it, you work for a year, and it can be shattered by a simple internet comment within like the first 5 minutes of release saying they hated it, and how that can so negatively affect the artist and writer. And then Dan, in his tweet, had mentioned he related to that and talked a little bit about that. Seeing peers also talk about it made me realize that this is something that probably widely affects people, and no one really talks about it. So we're going to talk about it today. So why do numbers matter? It seems like right now everything is valued in how many likes, subscribers, followers you have, because that is a perceived value to advertisers, to media outlets, etc. Totally fine. You need to have some sort of measuring stick to measure things. But that said, I want to talk about how the value of art doesn't necessarily decrease if it is not popular on social media. And I'd like to also bring up the idea and discussion of how when someone puts so much work into something and it kind of is all but a blip on social media radar, does that affect the later output of that person? And does it make that work intrinsically boring? I don't think so. So all this to say, what is my point? My point. Yes, I got to get to my point. My point is that I want everyone to think beyond the numbers, and I feel like we're slowly working towards that. I do feel that people are valuing real life experiences lately a lot more, and the connections that you can build and the real sparks that happen that do not necessarily get measured online. There's been such incredible moments at small house concerts, or like I played a tiny little hall recently for an arts council meeting, and it was such an amazing experience, and I feel like my energy just was actually able to affect people, which was an incredible feeling, especially considering sometimes you feel like your energy is not affecting people, and then you kind of question why you're doing it at all. So how do we rectify the kind of push and pull of the social media life, of it's necessary in a way to promote and publicize your work, but it can also be such a detriment mentally, because unfortunately it's so hard not to focus on the results of things. And it's an incredible bummer when you work so hard on something and it barely gets any attention. And I've seen this happen with friends. They've made an amazing album and it just, nothing happens. And it's really a shame, because I feel like people aren't reaching out of their social media bubble to go find that music otherwise, and you're really relying on algorithms and word of mouth, which is now not actually word of mouth, it's word of typing. Yeah. Bad joke. Another thing I want to touch on is the perception that someone deserves more followers, subscribers, likes, etc. And I know that that statement is generally well-intentioned. It always comes from a really good place. But it's so hard when someone says, oh, you deserve so much more than this. It unfortunately can really have the effect of feeling kind of bad, because you think, oh, well, all this work I've done has been completely written off because it's not getting the attention it deserves. Whereas it kind of devalues the small fragments of people that have had some sort of benefit from that art or from that creation that may not equate to a giant number, but sometimes touching a few people in the right way, and maybe you've made their day or their week. And unfortunately, sometimes when it says you should have this amount of subscribers or followers or whatever, it definitely discounts what else is happening in that sphere. If you're a painter, you're doing shows in real life, you're doing all sorts of stuff. You're not necessarily just selling your art on the internet, right? So it discounts all the effect that art or output has on the greater universe, because social media is such a tiny piece that feels so big, but it's such a tiny piece of the larger puzzle of promoting and existing. To conclude, I want to thank you for watching this the whole way through, if you have, and I just want to start a discussion down below. I'd love to hear how this sort of pressure to have a lot of likes and to have public recognition of things, how it affects you. I know that it probably affects more than just artists and musicians. I think it probably affects a number of people. I mean, you can see in the studies it's definitely affecting young people and teenagers and children in a way that is this constant trucking towards getting that little red notification, which I think is going to have a really negative effect in the future. But I want to hear what you think. Please leave a comment below. Let me know. I'd love to have a discussion with you. As always, stay cool, cooler than me, and I'll see you in the next one. And I promise it's going to be more smiley.
A little purpose, something to know. A new direction, give me some